Morning and welcome to Morning Blend. We're going to be talking about the movie coming out this weekend, June 16th. It's me and Tony. Janelle has a client. She's a personal trainer and she's whipping them into shape. And hopefully one day she'll do the same thing for me and Tony because I know I could definitely use it. I don't know about you, Tony, but I know I
I'm
can.
all right. I take care of myself.
Yeah, definitely. So what we're gonna do is we have three movies opening this weekend. We have Elemental, The Flash, and Blackening. And the way we're gonna do it is worst to best. And we're gonna start off with Elemental. Tony.
Look, when it comes to Disney Pixar, you're normally in for a treat. This time around, though, this one just doesn't stick the landing. Gorgeously animated. It's really clever plot, with the story of the immigrant struggle. But it's really, honestly, a mixture. It boils down to of Romeo and Juliet and Moana. And so it's a very, very familiar story for the most part that kind of feels like a retread at times. Strong voice cast, but it really just doesn't hit. And I'll let you touch on it more.
You know, you're absolutely right. It was I don't know what to say about it, to be honest with you. I think the kids said it all. They basically sat there and they giggled a little bit, not much, but I'd say the majority of the time they were pretty quiet. What do you think?
Yeah, there really wasn't a lot of engagement. And honestly, in my opinion, this is Pixar's first ever romance. They push the boundaries and Inside Out with an older demographic, but this one is really aimed at an older conglomerate of kids. And, the younger kids, the 8, 10-year-olds, it's going to go over their heads and there's not a whole lot there. There is some dead space, some dead air at times. Honestly, this is something I'm trying to think back. There's a good 2-minute segment. It's a sequence, a montage, if you will, where it's just music, no dialogue. And I feel like that's the first ever for Pixar, and it really kind of felt out of place. And so while it does touch on, important themes, I think it's going to be kind of missold to the younger generation. It's still fun for the family, but your little ones are certainly gonna get bored at times.
Voice cast includes Leah Lewis as the fiery Amber, Mamadou Athie as the water guy Wade, Ronnie Del Carmen as Ember's soon-to-be retired dad Bernie, and Sheila Omi as Ember's love-seeking mom. I wish I had somebody like that when I was young. I tell you. All right, moving right along, we're going to go right into the blackening, and I think I'll go ahead and get started with the blackening because I had a few words to talk about that. So let's see if I can get right into that. The blackening. I tell you what, it was actually more of I couldn't get it. The question is, we can't all die first because it's an all black cast. Uh, Tim Story wrote it, he directed it, produced it, starring Grace Myers, Jermaine Fowler, Melvin Gray, ex Mayo, Dwayne Perkins, and it centers around a group of black friends who reunite for a Juneteenth weekend trapped in a remote cabin with a twisted killer. Right. Too many times we've seen this. Cabin in the Woods, I thought, was a lot better. This was just one of those typical, what's that commercial? Hey, we got to run from the evil guy. There's a car over there. No, let's go over there with all the tools to kill us. Yeah, right. That's what I thought about that. I just really couldn't get into it. I really couldn't get into the figure that they had on the game either. So that's another story. What do you think, Tony?
This, if you're trying to boil it down to anything, this is Scary Movie franchise meets Jordan Peele writing. It really starts off as kind of a commentary on modern racism and everything, and then it really dovetails into something totally different. And it's laughable at times in a good and a bad way. It never really takes itself too seriously, but it starts to have something to say and just kind of tails off. So it is fun, and there was a lot of crowd engagement. So I think it'll play well to audiences, but it really just didn't have enough there to have any importance, in cinema besides, having the all black cast, which obviously is a great thing. But I was really hoping they'd take it a little bit further, Jordan Peele-esque and have, like a point to it, as opposed to just being, honestly, the cast were, and I know I'm white, so take it as you will, but they seem like caricatures of how people would act.
Of how
And
white people would act. Let's just put it in perspective.
yeah,
How white people would act in a scary movie, not how black people would act.
yeah. And
It,
so it didn't really make sense to me. And
yeah.
compelling cast. I enjoyed Dwayne Perkins, Antoinette Robinson. Jermaine Fowler had an interesting role, but honestly, the biggest thing I'm going to take away and not forget about this one is the board game, because that is deeply unsettling appearance. I wish they would have kind of dove into that more and got the mythology behind it. But just when you have this scary element that could have been something that really was a landmark in horror, they just kind of belittled it and started making it like a pop culture game. So yeah, this one just
Yeah, just
didn't
didn't
quite
get
hit
it.
the mark.
Let's go on to the best movie that we saw this week, which had to be The Flash, directed by Andy Muschietti. Ezra Miller, you know how crazy he was and the stuff that he's done. He was great as Barry in The Flash. I really enjoyed it. You also had Sasha Callie, you had Michael Shannon in it, Ron Livingston. We're not going to spoil it, Tony. Let's not spoil The Flash.
Absolutely
Okay.
not.
I let's not talk about the cameos that were in this, because the cameos made this movie great. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't as damn as Transformers, but it was definitely a wow. We got to see this again. What do you think, Tony?
I had an absolute blast. Look, I love the DC universe. Batman is something that's always going to hit home for me. Michael Keaton is who I grew up with, so being able to see him on the screen again as the Cape Crusader was unbelievable. That being said, Ezra Miller, I know they have done quite a few things that are terrible, and I hopefully that they are working on themselves. But he is spectacular as Barry Allen and playing different, multiple roles in this film. Not to get touched too much
Yeah,
into it, he
yeah,
does a great job, or they do a great job. Sorry, um, Sasha Kaye. I didn't really know much about her before this one, but as Supergirl, man, she delivers.
yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff we can't talk about for obvious reasons.
No,
But
we definitely can. So let's
this is
stop
a po-
right
this is
there,
a
because we're bottled up for time right now. So let's start off with Elemental. What do you give it?
Elemental's a 3 out of 5 for me. It's not the worst thing by any means, but it's definitely not anything close to what it's been. So mid-tier Pixar.
I give it the same thing, 3 out of 5. Okay, let's go to the Blackening.
The Blackening for me is 3 out of 5. Look, it's going to have some crowd engagement, but at the end of the day, it was very forgettable for most of it.
I give it 2 out of 5.
Oh,
2 out of 5, definitely. All right, Tony, The Flash.
The Flash, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5. We've had a lot of blockbusters this summer. It hasn't been quite, Spider-Verse level or, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but it's just right behind those two. I can't urge you enough to go see it. There is a mid-credit scene. Please avoid all spoilers.
Yes.
The worst thing about the film, though, is the CGI. It's head-scratchingly bad at times. But what are you going to do?
I give it 4.5 out of 5 too. Let's go that way. 4.5 out of 5. Thank you, St. Louis. There it is. Worst, Elemental. In the middle, The Blackening. And the best, The Flash. Tony, thank you again. Let's get with Janelle and do some exercising. We'll see you next week.